Hello, and welcome to World of Warbirds. I'm Brian Pierce. Hello Warbirders, and welcome to this fifth video in this series on Amerika bombers, which were the aircraft that Nazi Germany intended to use to hit targets in North America. When we look at the plans for the Horten 18 flying wing, it seems as though a Nazi agent traveled back through time through a time machine, stole some plans for the B-2 Spirit, and then brought them back to the 1940s. Hollywood, you're welcome. But although the aircraft looks as though it is some kind of made-up fan fiction thing, like taking a Saturn V rocket, slapping some iron crosses on it, and imagining a Second World War winning Third Reich landing on the moon, it was a real concept and a real design, and there were Horten flying wings that actually flew. Let's take a look at their origins and what the plan was for them to bomb America. The Horten brothers were born in the early teens, and they were all seriously infected by the aviation bug. All three flew for the Luftwaffe. One, Wolfram, perished flying a Heinkel 111 over Dunkirk, but the other two survived the war and lived on into the 1980s. Walter Horten flew with Adolphe Galland during the Battle of Britain and actually shot down 7 British aircraft. But both brothers are mainly known for their revolutionary aircraft designs. Pre-war, they had participated in the system of civilian gliding clubs, where students trained on gliders under the tutelage of World War I veteran pilots. It was a system that skirted the Treaty of Versailles and, incidentally, trained scads and scads of extremely skilled pilots from the ground up. The Hortens didn't just love flying aircraft, they loved designing aircraft. As teenagers, the Horten brothers were involved in these flying clubs, and by 1933 they were building actual flying gliders. Their main drive, from the beginning to the end, was the idea of increasing performance by decreasing drag. And what better way to reduce drag than to reduce the amount of airplane having to move through the air? Wings were absolutely needed to fly, so they kept those. But the fuselage, tail, leave those off in order to get some serious performance. So the Hortens built flying wing gliders pre-war, and experimental powered ones with piston engines and props during the early war period. In 1942, the RLM finally provided substantial financial support to the brothers to build a twin turbojet-powered fighter-bomber design. And this was named the HO-229. Propelled by Junkers 004B turbojet engines, the 229 had a top speed of 600 miles per hour and could climb at 4,300 feet per minute up to 49,000 feet. 3 prototypes were built, but the brothers weren't done yet. The Hortens initially were not invited to submit a proposal for the Amerika bomber program because so far they had only worked on fighter aircraft. Undeterred, they went ahead and put together their own proposal anyway. What they came up with was a giant flying wing with a 131-foot span, powered by 6 UMO 004B turbojets contained within the wing. They were fed by air intakes located in the wing's leading edge. To save on weight, the landing gear was to be jettisoned immediately after takeoff, and the bomber would be landed on a skid. Rocket assist takeoff could be used to help fling the big bomber into the air. The aircraft was to be built mainly of wood and held together with a special carbon-based glue. The brothers made their presentation to the RLM on February 25, 1945 in Berlin, and the presentation went very well. What didn't go well was that the Hortens were told that they would have to work closely with Junkers and Messerschmitt to make their bomber a reality. And the engineers from these companies just didn't seem to get it. Although the 229 had flown very well without a vertical fin and rudder, the Junkers and Messerschmitt team wanted to add one to the bomber. The Hortens were aghast. The whole point of their design was to reduce drag, and now these nincompoops wanted to add the superfluous rudder to their design, which would add a lot of drag. As would the engine placement, which Junkers and Messerschmitt wanted to sling under the wing. Although the team recommended a go-ahead for production in former mining tunnels, the Hortens would have none of it, and they walked. Instead, Reimer Horten designed what came to be known as the Ho18B, while the other committee-designed machine was to be known as the A. The B did have elements of both previous designs. This time, a fixed landing gear was included with two Heinkel S011 turbojets mounted to the side of the wheels. When airborne, the wheels would be covered by a door to reduce drag. The expected performance was pretty impressive. The Ho18B would be able to carry almost 9,000 pounds of bombs for almost 7,000 miles at an altitude of 53,000 feet. It would be able to stay in the air for 27 hours. Fully loaded, it would weigh about 35 tons. Two 30mm cannon would be mounted directly below the cockpit. Construction would occur in two huge bomb-proof hangars near Cala. These had concrete roofs almost 20 feet thick to protect them from Allied bombs. Extra long runways had been constructed so that the flying wings could be tested there too. Work was supposed to start immediately. It is an interesting fantasy to imagine fleets of these flying wings arriving over American shores like a futuristic alien invasion. Their wood composition and novel shape might have made them harder to spot on radar, and their altitude and speed would have made them difficult to intercept. Would they have made a difference to the German war effort? Maybe, if they had been developed earlier and in much greater numbers. But, as it was, Germany surrendered 2 months before construction of these futuristic flying wings could even begin. I hope you have enjoyed this series on the Amerika bombers. There were a couple of aircraft that I considered for the series that didn't make the cut. One was the Japanese version of the Amerika bomber, which was the Nakajima G10N Fugaku. Two others that I considered to include as a kind of reverse Amerika bomber were the Northrop YB-35 and the Convair B-36. Especially with the B-36, I thought it would be interesting to look at an aircraft that was like the concept of the Amerika bomber, but intended to go the other direction, and actually became an operational reality. But we will do these aircraft later, and we will add them to the playlist. Please give me some feedback on how you like these kind of videos and series. Give me suggestions. Also, please give me some encouragement. Support the channel. Show your love by hitting me with a super thanks, which happens all too rarely. Or hit me with a like, or join me over on Patreon. Check out the dozens and dozens of other videos and the hours and hours of audio content in the extensive back catalog of podcast episodes. Until next time.